Hello everyone, it's episode 26, Road to Super Bowl, and I'm like tired, exhausted, and running kind of out of energy with like the summer streaks really going on. I'm really not good at heat. So I figured out, let's, which franchise just feels like that. It was like, everything could be sunshine and rainbows, but we kind of got burned with hope, especially for last year. Well, it's Colts. Because since Andrew Luck retirement, they've tried several different things, several different QBs, and despite the talent on the roster, the QB play just determined everything. And prior to last year, we were all excited. Anthony Richardson flashes in the first year, they looked super promising, but year two, it was kind of disaster. Should this mean that you should give up on Anthony Richardson? Do I necessarily agree with all the process? Not really, we will get to that, but yeah, I feel like this is the mental state of a Colts fan. Guys, it's not fun, but is it going to be super positive today? Not really, but I'm gonna be honest, and at the same time, dare I say, better days could be on the horizon, hopefully. I like some things, a lot of things about this team. So maybe, just maybe something clicks with either Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. And this horse could get wild. We will see. So, hello everyone. welcome to this episode. A little bit of a weird introduction, but yeah, I felt like it fitted. Let me know in the comments if it did or not. Also, if you could like, subscribe, or anything to support this channel, I would be very, very helpful. With that being said, let's now and deep dive into the Colts. And as usual, we'll start with how they did in their draft. And I was not a huge fan of day 2. I was super huge fan of day 1, and I like the day 3. So let's start. Tyler Warren, I don't know. It seems like very similar to last year when Brock Bowers, to me, was clearly a prospect worth taking inside top 10. And just because it's tight end, he fell to the Raiders. And I feel very much similar towards Tyler Warren. I'm not saying he is as good of a prospect as Brock Bowers. I felt like he's been better prospect, but last year was much stronger draft. You had several QBs to dig deep and dive into. Like we saw 6 come with like top 14 picks. You also had Marvin Harrison, Joe Yacht. So yeah, this draft was Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, and one great QB prospect in Cam Ward. And then after that, I think you can absolutely justify even taking Tyler Ward 4 overall. Like I would say the dip of the talent there in terms of, I like the talent of, for example, GMaty and Warren, but their positions are less valued in the league. And I didn't necessarily love the high-end talent of like some other great positions. Perhaps T-Mac was like my one guy that was above the other crop, but I would say it would be justifiable to take him 4. They got him 13, so to me this is tremendous value and tremendous freaking fit. Like to me, Tyler Warren was before the Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson was actually a competition where I feel like they will flip a coin and go with Anthony Richardson this year. This was like, this is the pick that just gives him zero excuse not to work. Like at this point, third year of his NFL career under good head coach, etc., etc. We will get to Anthony, but this was kind of my take. And I love this. Like what this team needs or needed after the offseason, it's like, okay, LB2 is a problem, but they could be figured out. They need a better pass rusher, but is there necessarily Abdul Carter after Abdul Carter in this draft? No. And other than that, yeah, of course QB, but yeah, we talk about there was lack of them, and I don't think it would be warranted to get someone so early after Anthony Richardson project. I think next year it's much more likely. And other than that, it was clearly tight end. So this is such a huge upgrade towards the room that really freaking needed. That yeah, this was definitely one of my favorite fits and picks in the entire draft. Now with day 2, I was not happy, and here's why. With JT, I think it was just too early for him. To me, he was much more of a middle third round guy rather than middle of the second. Also, I don't think he necessarily gives you the high upside as a pass rusher, which is what this team is clearly going for. And especially for the edge room, I feel like you have like 4-5 different guys that can play, and has right now level of play that to me is kind of potential of JT. With like one guy like Latu that has higher than that. So I don't think he necessarily gives you enough potential to justify spending this pick. And as well, like his floor is pretty solid, but you have other floor raising guys out there that you can absolutely have. So I was not a huge fan of this pick, and also for a team that I feel like both GM and head coach are on a hot seat. Though that is something that probably slightly changed, after the draft, because Jim Irsay, long-time owner of the Colts, passed, I think like it was 2 or 3 weeks after the draft. I feel like maybe that's where, he, for his good things and bad things, one of the, I would say to me, good things was he was loyal to his guys. And I feel like perhaps they entered this draft with mindset that their jobs are secure, despite not necessarily making it, but they are solid team through and through for several years. They built the roster the right way, and they might have entered the draft with a feeling like, okay, if Anthony Richardson plays good, if we are 8-9 football team, it's still good, and we are good to go for next year. So that's where like JT could fit you much better with like Samson Ebukam. You may not have to bring him back, and like he's going to fit into the rotation, but that I think things changed with Jim Irsay's passing. Rest in peace, Jim. I don't have a strong opinion on this dude, but from what I heard, besides some of the bad things, the love of like his love towards the organization, towards Colts fans was unfreaking deniable. So for that, thank you very, very much. And I would say more owners like you that clearly are doing things with passion. Does it always bring the best results? No, but if it's passion, and I would say, based on what I heard, not arrogance, but it's like, he was not the guy that you stop as a Colts fan and like, yeah, shush, get out, like, I'm the big dude. Yeah, I like this type of people. So, not to mention his other things, I'm not approving of them, but for the way he like treated the fan base, took care of the Colts, I think that was quite good from him. So, perhaps that's like something that changed. And I'm not saying JT is just like straight up bad, it's just C, where like my average grade in terms of draft was like B-, B. So it's like, I don't like it, but it's kind of okay-ish. Where I really feel like they kind of, to me, surprisingly missed is Justin Wally, who I think like, again, way too early for me. He has kind of too specific role for me to justify spending a third round pick. Like, I cannot see him as a 3-down back for this type of defense. So like, yeah, I think Luan Aruma is going to like him for some of the stuff, but that should, like, he's role specific to a degree that, yeah, if he's your 5th round option, yeah, absolutely, spend that 5th to get a role player. But this is, relatively high 3rd round pick. And especially where I don't think corner is your problem kind of at all. Like, I think you have so many body types there. You brought Charvarius Ward, Juju Brands comes back of injury. So I really actually like this cornerback room, even without Charvarius Ward. So bringing Justin Wally there, like, I was not a huge fan. And also, beside the QB, and like, I understand some of the plans with linebacker, but this could definitely be a spot where you go for a linebacker. Or you just take, I would love Kevin Winston. If you go for this, a guy that could play from the slot for potentially. So Kevin Winston was on there. I would absolutely love White Milam here because, okay, like, I understand you like Matt Goodcanvas, you like Tanner Bortolini, and I do too. But Braden Smith has 1 year left on his deal, if I'm not superly mistaken. And let's have another guy in the pipeline. We can kick Gonzalez back to tackle if everything hits, or just like have really nice developmental prospect that to me was warranted to be drafted in the second round. You could have get him here for a room that lost Will Fries, lost Ryan Kelly, and I like the replacements, but let's bring one more. And it's not like they are definitely stuck behind each other, because like I said, there's a pipeline when just next year you can kick Ben Gonzalez to the tackle and play Wyatt Malam as a right guard. So I feel like they kind of dropped the ball here with the other players. So this was a reach for a position that I don't necessarily think you needed. And also I felt like, dude, there was so many better options for positions I would really like you to address. So that was kind of one pick when I was like, one of the worst picks of the draft any organization made was this. Not to shit on Justin Worley, like more power to him. If he has a successful career, let's go for it. I don't think he has to be bad and anything like that. It's just too early and just much better and more pressing needs that I think Colts had. And to really squeeze on that, like I feel like their rotation of defensive tackles is something that worries me, to put it lightly. So, could you perhaps try to go for Darius Alexander, which like it would be a couple of picks later or like earlier, but even for the guys that was still on board, who would I like? I mean, Ty Robinson could have been an interesting guy to bring in to learn from DeForest Buckner. I mean, probably too early for Tonka. Joshua Farmer could be absolutely the pick. So I feel like there were much better fits and needs for usage of this pick than Justin Willie. And at the same time, I felt like he was a reach. So yeah, I was really not happy with them on day 2. But on day 3, they kind of picked it back up. And at least in my eyes, I like Jalen Travis in the process. Like this was the guy that I saw a lot of predictions having him go like 6th or 7th round. And at the same time, another sources that I absolutely respect and think highly of, like were surprised that he fell out of the day 2. So it was like high opinion variance on Jalen Travis. I feel like this is kind of a sweet spot. And for a lot of things that I said about Wyatt Milam, I really like Jalen Travis as a pick here. So that kind of like fits one of those needs, potential replacement for Braden Smith for next year. I also think like Braden Smith might move to the guard with later of his career. So if Matt Gonzalez does not work, can I see a picture in which like they switch with Matt and they try Matt at tackle, or Jalen Travis has a really nice runway? Yeah, I like both of these options. DJ Giddens, I think he brings better depth towards this room that actually like behind Jonathan Taylor for a couple of years it was kind of meh. Now with Khalil Herbert and DJ Giddens, I think it's not great, but it's not terrible. And for several years, it actually low-key was terrible. And then Hunter Waller. I'm not listing all of the guys. This is just like the picks that either were high picks I wanted to talk, or some of the day 3 picks that I felt like were worth mentioning. And to me, Hunter Waller is very interesting because he was listed as a safety entering the draft. Then they drafted him and listed him as a linebacker, which to me is one thing that they've done with Jalen Carlisle last year, converted big safety towards linebacker. And I think that's a good plan for Hunter Waller as well. But he's back like with the safeties in terms of depth chart right now. So I'm not necessarily certain what they are going to do with him, but this was value in my eyes to me. Like he was warranted 4th, 5th round guy. And I think he could be, late day sleeper that is going to be a nice player for them, even in terms of long haul. And it's kind of nice to look at, last year we converted Jalen Carlisle, and it was kind of success. Like, rolling with him as linebacker 2 is a risk, but I would be willing to take it. So there's kind of a pipeline to do it for Hunter as well. So I like the landing spot for him. Overall, it's a schizophrenic draft. So love day 1, like day 3, and hate day 2. Pick your poison. Like, what do you think? Overall, it's kind of an average draft. I really think like day 2 just really sinks this one down. But could you get with backup running back, potential starting low end tackle, potential LB2, role playing corner and role playing edge, and superstar tight end? That's absolutely not a bad haul. He obviously had other picks, did not fit in this. Only 6 guys can fit into this screen. Now, where does this leave their roster in terms of offense? And okay, let's just address the elephant in the room, which is Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. And when I thought about these guys, it actually inspired me to think of another mini show that I'm probably going to make for you. So just to point an idea, it's like, can you treat Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones similar to baseball pitchers? It's like when we are in the lead, or even let's go for Daniel Jones, who in theory has much lesser he has much lesser upside, but should not make a lot of free and outs, does not necessarily make super boneheaded decisions, can complete passes with the more accurate percentage than 50%. Yeah, let's go with Daniel there. And if we are facing just simply a better team, or if the situation is kind of desperate, let's put Anthony Richardson out there. And I'm going to take up on this idea. For now, let's talk about this room as a normal, because this is Fantasyland. I don't think it's possible that someone would be this crazy to do this. So let's talk about them as who's going to be starter. I had Antonio here. I think right now it's definitely pointing towards the port of Daniel Jones, with Anthony has injury from the preseason. Though on the depth chart there is Anthony Richardson still there. So nobody knows. I think at this point, I don't think neither of these guys know, and that's not necessarily a recipe for success, right? I remember hearing, it's when was the last time you were I'm not sure who the better or less worse QB is as a starter for a certain team, and that team makes the playoff. Yeah, it's I can't remember that. So the fact that neither of these guys kind of took this job by now, it is worrying. And obviously the history of these guys is worrisome. With Daniel Jones, I don't think he's a bad quarterback, but at his best he's mid-20s. At his worst, he's late 30s. And that's not necessarily bad. It's definitely bad to give him 40 millions like the Giants did. But for 14 millions a year, you can do much worse than Daniel Jones. And what I like about bringing Daniel Jones in, which I think at first, before GMaty passed, I felt like this would be more about, well, let's fire up Anthony Richardson. Here's the competition. You don't freaking want to lose to Daniel Jones. So yeah, to do something. But as I think this year is much more about Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard to save their job, it started to swing more towards Daniel Jones, because it's we have great team that if we just don't make too many mistakes or too many very cheap free and outs, we would rather settle for mediocre play but kind of consistent, rather than absolute shitstorm for free plays or free dives and then total celebration, touchdown, whatever in the next dive. So I think it kind of leads towards Daniel Jones. But for what is really nice is for both of these quarterbacks, Shane Steichen offense is absolutely perfect. So I really love this as a landing spot for Daniel Jones and obviously for Anthony Richardson. So it's spread, it's using quarterbacks using run game, and both of these guys are good at it, or not necessarily good at it or great, but it fits their skill set the best. Who is going to be that? What is going to mean? I don't know. We will see. It's going to be interesting, hopefully. I still I will finish this one on Anthony Richardson. I understand when it's you get frustrated that he misses, with Anthony Richardson, the one thing is you see flashes of Josh Allen out there, like flashes of amazing guy, really. And it's not like it's just, yeah, he can throw the ball. Like, he can read the guys, he can make good decisions, he can navigate the pocket, but it's just so freaking inconsistent. And then there is the whole passing thing of being a quarterback, and when you just cannot hit the target accurately almost at all, you know, it's just crazy. Like, if he can hit guys that are 15 or 10 to 15 yards from him accurately, then yeah, that's kind of the only thing that he needs to have the starting job. But he just cannot do that. The second part of it is he needs to stay healthy. One of the things is that with the way he is playing, like so angry this position, like he leaves his body to get hit a lot. We saw it in his year one when like he got concussion because he just wanted to flex on guys. And he's been hurt quite a lot. And that obviously, when you need to learn consistency and you are up and down the lineup, up and down on the training field or like on the medical table, yeah, that's not a good recipe for consistency. So I'm still intrigued by Anthony. Is it fair to pull plug on him after 20 games, like similar to Will Levis? I don't necessarily think so, but unlike with Will, I feel like here, like the offense could not have been designed much better towards the qualities that Anthony Richardson have. It could not be run much better than Shane Steichen runs it. So, you know, I think he got his fair shot and he did not succeed, though like he was still drafted super young. So like, imagine he would be Jordan Love and we would not see him for the first 2 years. And this would be, for example, the year that he would be coming into the NFL. I think this would be still super, super intriguing. Like, you know, like, yeah, maybe, you know, just there is an accuracy, etc., etc. But he's still so freaking young. So he was taken as a clear project that they like play from day one. And I definitely think this is not like end of his career. I will expect him, if it doesn't work with Colts, he's going to get several other chances. You know, would it be so crazy for him to even transition to a different position? Not necessarily, because he is a freak of athlete. I definitely don't think it's end for Anthony Richardson overall. But with the Colts, the sale might have shipped. We will see. Now, for the offensive line, this is definitely a super, super exciting group, which is like interesting to say for a group that lost 2 of its starters for like really big contracts. Like Ryan Kelly got over 10 million a year, Will Fries at like 17 to 18 million a year. That's hard to come by, and still I think this is one of like easily top 10 offensive line and potential top 5, perhaps top 3. Okay, I don't think they will like go over Eagles, but yeah, it's really great. It starts with Brandon Ryman, and this is the guy that, you know, for me as a European guy, hello, I'm from Czech Republic, so the fact that the guy that actually played in the Europe League and kind of, I'm not saying like he got straight from Europe League to NFL, that's obviously not the case, but he grew up in Germany, played his ass off in like the European leagues. I'm sorry, not in Germany, in Austria. Oh, so sorry guys. One is up, one is down from us. They both taken on us in Second World War. Oh, whatever. But it's like huge, you know, not only have teams play in Munich, play in London, but to actually see guy to kind of go from this environment to make it into NFL, to get towards a second contract that was massive and absolutely earned, and actually be top 10 guy on his position, perhaps with potential to be a top 5. That's huge, and I hope we will see more and more of this. Next to him, you have Quentin Nelson. You know, like a couple years ago, you would say the best guy in football. Right now, I think there is a conversation. I would not hand him the crown, but he is still definitely super, super close to an elite status and a top 5 guard in the league. Very, very easy. Next to him, Tanner Bortolini and Matt Goncalves. Both of these guys have been drafted last year. Matt was, I think, a 3rd rounder and Tanner was like 6th. Let me recheck on that one with my notes. No, Tanner was 4th and Matt was 3rd. So They developed them nicely. Both of these guys needed to play with Will Fries and Ryan Kelly injuries, and both stepped in good enough that they really feel justified in letting these two guys walk away. I think they even might have cut Ryan Kelly, I'm not sure, and like hand them this position because they feel like, okay, these are cheap options for next 3 years that are not that far away from those guys and have potential to definitely like be at their level for super cheap control, and definitely in the like area of this O-line that next to experienced and special veterans, we are not worried that they would not make it. Like we already talk, like if one of these guys is your weak link, you can survive absolutely, and when you have close to elite guys next to them, you can definitely justify having two guys with nice potential to work next to each other. Then on right tackle, Braden Smith, definitely he had better years than last year. I think the time is starting to slow him down, some injuries, but he's still very good right tackle and a guy that's in his contract year, and we will see how this one will go. They invested in Jalen Travis, Matt Goncalves definitely can swing back to tackle, so we will see. Like he is not even 30 yet. Like the injuries, like when you look at longevity of him or Quentin Nelson, I would say Quentin, unless he decides to retire because like he kind of wants to, I think he has at least 5 more years. With Braden Smith, I'm not certain it's 3 or more, but definitely for now, really good player. I think they have a successor plan if it doesn't work, and if it does, he's going to get nice like 2-3 year 40 million type of contract, and you are super, super happy. So definitely great O-line, really good at run game, can pass protect very nicely, but in terms of run game, they are clearly better like in that area because like Quentin is just freak of nature in that. And yeah, like this is not excuse for either of these QBs to not work, and neither is this, because in terms of weapons, in terms of guys to throw it to or run the ball, like they have everything, man. They have freaking everything. Josh Downs, one of the best slot wide receivers in the league. Michael Pittman, this is something that I definitely need to get better for next year because I loaded him since last year's edition, because this year this was just not his year. Under 1,000 yards, only 3 touchdowns, not as productive. But I've learned or came to learn that like this dude played through injury that should have put him on the sideline pretty much since week 1, and that's crazy. Like this dude is freaking maniac, and I need to get better to get on hold. Like it's not like you don't know about certain injuries, etc., but just after a year, they will be much more open about how serious it was. So like there is always guys are questionable, etc. It's part of the game, right? But with him and Kyle Duggar, like the situations where like these dudes should have not been on the field. So how much can you really judge them on what they put out last year? And Michael Pittman, for what it's worth, was still really good. Like was still important starter. So can he come back to being an amazing perimeter weapon? Hell yeah. I definitely so. With Alec Pierce, like 37 receptions and over 800 yards, that's freaking insane. Like this dude is true deep threat, and he's definitely a guy that you need to take care, whether it's Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones behind the center, because one is going to utilize him very, very well. The other probably not so much. I think you guys know. If you don't, leave the comment, I will explain, but this is kind of a mini game for how much you actually know about these QBs and how much do you watch Colts. So let me know in the comments. Then Anthony Mitchell as your wide receiver 4. Like this dude has everything in terms of physical potential. I like his route running. There's a great potential for him, but it just didn't work for him year 1 here. And it was a chance for him. Like with Michael Pittman not necessarily looking great. There were some injuries. Am I worried a little bit about Anthony not taking his opportunity year 1? Yes, I am. I still have huge faith in him, and I do expect him to be a really nice weapon. And perhaps, like with Alec Pierce not necessarily being greatly utilized in some of the packages, this could be a chance for Adonai Mitchell to step up. But now the opportunity kind of starts to dwindle because Michael Pittman should be back to his great health. Josh Downs is special, and he's going to continue to be special. And now you have another huge weapon in Tyler Warren, who, I will not be shocked if after year one he's in top 10 tight end conversation. Like, I would be slightly shocked if he's Brock Bowers year one, but do I rule it out? Not necessarily. Like, he is a special dude in my eyes. He's just a special player. Like, is he a great blocker for his size? Not necessarily, but like, he is such a great threat after the catch that, oh god, like, really, that perhaps like Tyler Warren, like all of the other guys are also that, but Tyler Warren just amplifies that. Like, just throw him the ball, hit him, and let him do the work. And with the guys that are here, like, this is kind of the skill set that Daniel Jones has. Not necessarily great, but has. That's like much better than Anthony Richardson. So I think, even utilization of Tyler Warren definitely would prefer Daniel Jones out there. And it's not end. Like, you have one of the top 7, top 10 backs in the league in Jonathan Taylor. I must say that I'm not like the biggest fan of Jonathan Taylor. Like, nothing against him, but he's like a little bit over I think people give him slightly more credit than I do. People see him in better light, but at the same time, like, the fact that they did not really have anyone after him for several years really fed him the carries and like let him took so many tools on his bodies. Like, he had troubles with injuries. Like, he's worn out for sure, and he's still kind of a young guy. He's like 28, if I'm not mistaken. 26, oh my god, and he still already has like so many carries. So like, when I look at the film, I don't necessarily see the elite guy. I see really close to that, and while a lot of people will have in that elite category, but when I might be wrong compared to those guys, it's like, I'm not sure how much I've emphasized the fact that like it's always him every freaking snap. Always feels like. So it's like, okay, perhaps the average is not as good as I would like for him to actually really be that elite guy. But while other guys have like 200 snaps to have juice for that average to be higher than him, like he has 250 in the same span of time. So like the fact that he can handle it with like not being so far away from like I still have him as an amazing status, sniffing that elite status. That's something that perhaps I'm wrong. So that's definitely something I will be looking more into Jonathan Taylor for next year. But yeah, I still think of him as a hell of a player. Nothing short of that. So like when you look at this, you have everything. You have deep threats, you have slot threats, you have guys that can win contested catches. You have guys that are playmakers when they have ball in their hands. You have special running back. Like, this is a great group of complementary weapons. Yeah, you don't have Justin Jefferson, you don't have Jamar Chase. Fair. But, there is only a handful of these guys. And beside that, like, you have everything. And Shane Steichen can dial pretty much everything. I mean, if Jaden Daniels run this offense, like, I would say this is a top 3 offense in the league, almost. Like, great offensive line, great weapons, special quarterback, great run designer and pass designer. Like, but you have Daniel Jones and hope of Anthony Richardson. So that's kind of the thing for the Colts. I mean, yeah, put Jaden Daniels here and like, gosh, like that would be so much fun. And that was obviously the idea with Anthony Richardson. Like, that's why they drafted him. They hoped they would get someone like Jaden Daniels. It just did not work out. Hopefully yet, but yeah, we'll see. In terms of depth, I think Dalton Tucker was solid for them. I'm not necessarily worried that if he needs to step in, that it's going to be a disaster, but definitely a guy that to me is like a guy that if he's your like 7th best offensive lineman, you're kind of okay. You have Jalen Travis, who I liked in the process. There is also Danny Pinter, Blake Freeland. So they are kind of deep, but also not that much, because like they just put their depth towards the front lines in Tanner Bortolini and Matt Goncalves. So, and like even with that, there is a couple of names that they can get into if those guys get injured, but it's a very, very solid line with solid depth. Now in terms of tight ends, there is several names: Drew Ogletree, Mo Alie-Cox, Will Malloy. As of right now, I'm mostly hopeful about Drew Ogletree, but as really kind of blocking specialist, nothing much more. It's Tyler Warren's room, and all the other guys are going to be really role players that you use for certain packages that you want to, but with a lot of talent that you have at wide receivers, I don't think they are going to necessarily use them too much. Now, I think with Drew Ogletree, I think his PFF is 70.3 and his snaps are 439. I feel like I switched the numbers there. In terms of wide receiver 5, Ashton Dillon, Anthony Gold, nobody that like would excite me to even put here. I have no idea who the wide receiver 5 is. I feel good about their top 4 guys. Backup running back in Kyle Herbert. I was quite high on him pre-last year. Then he was kind of run out of Chicago, did not necessarily work with the Bengals. He's a solid runner. He should allow Jonathan Taylor to not necessarily get all the 3-1, 3-2, where like you don't want Jonathan Taylor to stockpile this to really get hammered. I think Kyle Herbert can absolutely help you in that area. And about Daniel Jones, we already talked about. So exciting offense. There's a lot of pieces to be happy about. But, and you know the but. Not necessarily but fumble, but those guys might fumble a lot. Now, for the Colts, we start with defensive line in terms of their defense, and it's a good line. If they had a difference-making player from the edge, it would be a great defensive line. And they try to have that. That's why they try to swing at it. Dowding, Quiddy, last year Latu, and Latu had a good rookie year, but there's always going to be people saying, well, what about Jared Verse? Drafted in the same draft as Latu, and he had a ascending rookie year. Latu had a good one, but he's definitely a guy with that potential to be, perhaps high end 2, low end 1, kind of your Montez Sweat of the world. That's Latu. Next to him, and that's where I was like a little bit questioning the JT pick, is like beside JT, who's kind of a fifth man here, you have Quiddy Pie, you have Taquan Lewis, and you also have Samson Ebukam. And the biggest question mark, or one of those, for especially this defense is Samson, because these are not his stats from last year, these are his stats from 2023. He did not play a single snap last year because he got injured during the preseason, and the injury forced him out to be out the whole year. He's around 30, I think quite there. Yeah, he's 30, last year of his deal, coming back from heart injury. How good is he going to be? If he's going to be 2023 version and Latu can take a step, we cooking. The question is, if he's not there, next to Latu or opposite to Latu, they have low, really nice guy frees, like Quiddy, like Taquan Lewis, like JT, I think could be almost from get-go. And they would really need Latu to be the difference maker from the edge. We'll see. Samson is really, really interesting. Now, there is depth and almost too much depth from the edge. But in terms of interior, and that was my main criticism, I love the pairing of DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart. This is freaking special. Grover Stewart, one of the best nose tackles in the league. The way he can penetrate the run game, he can stop, he can take on double teams. He is just a freaking special guy. The thing is, those guys cannot play every single freaking snap. That's impossible from defensive tackle position. Nobody does that. Perhaps Christian, I mean, not even Christians. And also DeForest Buckner had some injuries. And with DeForest, he's really great pass rusher. Sort of like Jeffrey Simmons of the world. you want him to be paired to next great guy from the edge, and now you're cooking, but like he can be your best player when you have like several good guys. That's why this defensive line is still really good. But again, there is really no backup plan, and he struggled with injuries. Both these guys are 31, 32, so they will probably start to slow down, or wear and tear is going to be higher. And the replacements for these guys, like Neville Gallimore, kind of your veteran band-aid, that can get you some snaps. Like they drafted Tim Smith, they still have Adebawore, but I mean, I would absolutely invest in there. Also for potential for other years, like those guys are and 31, 32, like not every defensive tackle is Cam Hayward that can like have his special season like age 36 or whatever. That's one. And two is like, I need those guys fresh. And like when there is no Grover Stewart on the field, you just run on them, like run through inside. Like it was so freaking clear. Grover Stewart is there, we can run on this team. Through the middle, there is problems there. And I'm like, Tim Smith can help you in there, but I feel like you should have invested almost premium resources. Like, yeah, to me, absolutely, even like spending both second round picks here, I would absolutely be okay with it for the Colts. They didn't, I hope it doesn't backfire. We'll see. That's definitely one thing that worries me. Overall, like good defensive line, very nice run stopping, good pass rush, and potential with Latu, with Ebukam coming back, hopefully healthy. But also it could be Latu is what he is, because like he needs to develop more moves, which is like he already had a lot of them, but the athletes in NFL were able to like figure them out. Can he win with power? That's the question. DeForest Buckner, 32. Samson Ebukam after injury, like it also has potential that is kind of not a non-factor defensive line, but good run stopping or great, but really not much of a pass rush, because there is not going to be that disrupting force. Now for linebackers, this is kind of the room that you imagine to survive with. Zaire Franklin is your, I like the term in heat-seeking missile. Had a lot of the time like TFG guy uses. I really like the term, and shout out to TFG, that franchise guy. If you don't know him, you absolutely have to follow him. Captain of this defense, energetic, Tasmanic devil of them. Like he's going to be there. Sometimes he's going to guess wrong. He's not necessarily great in coverage, but as your number one linebacker in the modern era of NFL, that's not bad. You can live with that, especially with the type of leader he is. And next to him, Jalen Calais, who transitions to linebacker. I'm not going to make bad jokes. Okay, so he transitions towards linebacker, and like he was solid, like very solid, but like limited amount of snaps. Now the job is kind of handed to him because the backups are kind of non-existent. Perhaps Joe Beshi coming from Bengals with Luanarumu, who takes over this defense, which to me is a very nice upgrade that Colts have made, despite Bengals defenses last couple of years being very underwhelming. I feel like it was much more about there was no freaking talent there beside Trey Hendrickson, or like no high-end talent. Here it's much more of that, so I'm excited to see Lou coaching this defense. Jalen, can this be a problem? Because like we all like almost always talk about like you don't want your linebacker room to be a problem, and Jalen Calais could be the problem. Like he could. Like we have not seen enough for this guy to like be sure that this is going to work. And if Zaire Franklin somehow goes down, oh god, that could be a freaking disaster. But there is also a positive spin. Zaire Franklin is what it is. Good leader, good mentor, and Jalen Calais, what we saw in flashes with one more year of actually being made and playing linebacker. Can he emerge as a really good player? I think the potential is there. Like the traits are here. He was really nice in coverage last year. So yeah, there's excitement, but it also could be a problem, which you don't necessarily want for your linebacking room. Now, let's go towards the secondary before we take a look at the backups for the whole defense and figure out what this team is going to be in terms of win and loss this year. So, secondary, huge investments. Charvarius Ward and Cameron Bynum. So, with Charvarius Ward, For those guys who don't know, like his last year with the San Fran last year was just brutal. On the field, when he was out there, he was not performing. But the reason, most likely for it, because there is an alternative explanation that age is catching up, but most likely reason for him to underperform was his young daughter died last year, and like I'm not a parent yet, but I just cannot imagine going through that. And especially like with the 49ers, where like last year was just so freaking brutal for them. They are rivals for the Seahawks, but like, dude, it was heartbreaking to watch from the distance and like learn about this guy, this family, and like it was brutal. For him to change the teams, that could help. Like when I suffered some similar losses in the family, like changing the scenery was actually one thing that I did, and it helped me. So I hope that it's going to do the same for Charvarius, and that he can just go with his life and fight for his daughter that is in the heaven for him. I believe he's strong enough and he can overcome that, though it's like absolutely crazy fucking situation. Now, towards the on-field product, like I say, for 90%, I would say we can scratch everything that Charvarius Ward did last year, because it's impossible to be in the right mindset in that scenario. And if that's the case, he would probably quickly come back towards amazing status for me and be a guy that this defense can absolutely count on perimeter, and really a guy that is going to be perfect fit for Lou Anarumo. I have him as just an important starter because there is still that 10% chance that the age is catching up for him, and like what we saw last year was actually how he's going to be portrayed towards the future. So there is a little bit of risk with the signing, but I still really like it, and I definitely ask Charvarius to get back on track. Now, next to him, Kenny Moore, absolutely great player from the slot, top 10 easily in the league at that position. Just a guy you absolutely know what you are getting from. Another leader of this defense. Very, very fun player, very good player. And one more reason why I was not A+ on Charvarius Ward is I really like the corners that they have here in Sam Womack, in Jalen Jones. Juju Brents is coming back from the injury. I felt those guys are actually good players, and when they stepped up last year, they played absolutely okay. Are they high-end good starters? No, they are definitely low-end good starters, and I understand that neither of these guys are rightfully number one. Do I think that perhaps Juju Brents or Sam Womack can figure this out to potentially be low-end ones, more you have two twos in terms of corners rather than high-end ones? Yes, I feel there was this potential, but with Charvarius Ward, really nice fit for Luan Armo, guy that you can count on to be that. And those guys really kind of compete for that second spot that's much more appropriate towards what their skills are as of right now. And perhaps you are obviously actually a really nice deep in terms of your cornerback room, because now you have 6 guys or 5 guys that you actually like. I have nothing against that thinking, especially in a year where we need to improve. And Charvarius Ward, I feel he was definitely kind of handpicked for Luan Armo. This is the guy I want for my defense, and I think he's going to fit quite nicely. I think the same goes with Cam Bynum, whom they spent even more money than on Charvarius Ward. And I get the scheme fit. I get Lou wants him coming from Brian Forrest, another guy that really is requiring a shit ton of understanding from his guys. So I think Cameron should be able to understand what Lou wants from him and really change kind of his role from week to week or from quarter to quarter. And I think he's close to important starter. Does this warrant such a big deal for a safety? I did question that. I really did. But at the same time, why not? Again, why not? For free agents, my average grade was a C, so C- is I think it's a slight overpay, but nothing terrible. So definitely a guy that I think is going to be impactful. I would just wish he cost less to like really like the signing. Next to him, Nick Ross, a guy that is super freaking young and is already in like his 4th year in the NFL. So, and still just 23. Last year he had mini breakout, and this year it's going to be all in for him. Like he kind of was grooming on the sidelines for first 2 years. Last year he got a chance, he played very well, and this is the year when he can absolutely ascend. So, like, do I expect him to like be top 10 safety in the league? No, but can he definitely be important starter even as early as this year? Yeah, I think Nick Ross has that potential. So if Charvarius Ward comes back to really being one of the premium corners, Nick Ross has his ascension. Cameron Bynum looks that this system absolutely fits to him. And in terms of Jalen Jones, Samuel Mack, and Juju Brands, you kind of have cornerback by committee, by down, by whatever Lou wants. And this has potential to be freaking nasty secondary. Like, you would have everything that you kind of want to. Oh, like, do you have bites at the ends of the world? No, but you are actually kind of damn close with Charvarius Ward at his highest peaks. Like, damn close, I mean tier behind Pat Surtain, but that's just because Pat is the best. So, you know, like if you are just a tier or tier and a half behind the best, that means you are damn freaking good. So I really like the secondary. I think it has really tremendous potential. And another unit of this team that, you know, should excite you. And that's kind of the story for the Colts for the last couple of years. There is a lot of talent on this roster. I really like how they put everything together, how they fit guys for their system. I like how they call their system. I like that they, you know, got rid of Gus Bradley to bring Luan Arumo, who I think has higher potential to elevate this defense. Can they figure out the quarterback? That's the year, and we will see. Now, towards the backups for the secondary, we already talked about backups for defensive line. I think it's great depth from the edge and almost no depth from the inside, which scares me. In terms of secondary, Juju Brand, Hunter Waller, and Rodney Thomas, I think it's good enough. If anywhere, like as a safety, Rodney Thomas, Hunter Waller, that's potential weak point, but I like Hunter Waller, so perhaps them like signing him back to safety means they really trust the transition of Jalen Carlisle towards linebacker is going to work, and perhaps they are more worried about depth in terms of safeties. Juju, we will see how he's going to back after his, unfortunately, yet another injury. Now, this finishes the defense of the Colts. Now, let's predict their season. And my prediction is 8-9. And start of the season is, so we go with Daniel. I think it trends towards that, and I would actually not be super unhappy about their decision to go with Daniel Jones from the start of the season, because kind of the main goal is not to fall behind super hard. Like, you cannot win the division or like get to the playoff first 6 weeks, but you can kind of lose that. So I think going with better floor, less upside, Daniel Jones is probably the right choice. When I look at the schedule, it's not the hardest, but it's also not the easiest. Like at Rams, home against Broncos, I don't think you can dismiss Raiders and Cardinals. Titans, with Cam Ward, like it's not going to be easy matchup. So I think 3-3 is reasonable. If I have to lean towards one way, it would probably be 4-2, but I don't know. I really settle at 3-3. Then the next part of the year to me is about Shane Steichen. And after 10 weeks, they will be on the bye. And by that time, it might just be 5-5 for them. And at that point, will the management of this team or the ownership, new ownership, perhaps more aggressive, actually try something new? Like, I would hate it. I think Shane Steichen is a damn good coach and really, really good offensive mind. But if you look at what the schedule is after that, it's like at Chiefs, you play Texans twice, at Seahawks, Jaguars twice, 49ers. So at that point, 5-5 is probably not going to get you towards playoffs. So can you kind of try to jumpstart next season with a new mind in the building? I would not be super surprised if that would happen. I would not like it, but I would not be surprised. Now, whether that's the case or not, whether it's still Shane or not there, I think the last 6 games, it might be the final chance for Anthony Richardson, not in NFL, but with Colts. And when I was talking about like they might be 5-6 or 6-5, or perhaps even 4-7, like at that point you have to go and flip it. You have to, in my eyes, you really have to go with Anthony Richardson and just try to roll six times in a row and like go from there. Because like his best is good enough to beat Chiefs. It's like good enough to beat almost anybody with the stand of the roster. The problem is like his bests are rare to come by, and his lows are very, very low. So that would be kind of how I see this team. I think they are going to hang around 500. I have them 8-9, and I really wonder what the franchise is going to do with new ownership, like new in terms of person, not necessarily it's like it's been sold, because it's still passed through the family. What they will do with Shane Steichen, how this quarterback battle is going to end up, and a little bit more about that quarterback battle you will most likely see in the mini-series of From the Sideline. I probably am going to call it, so you can check there. I don't know, I like this team, I like the talent, but if your QB room is like bottom 5 in the league, and the only potential is like comes from super high variance from Anthony Richardson, it drags you down, man. It drags you freaking down. So this was your Colts fans. I am with you. I hope I was not too negative. I'm rooting for you guys. Figure it out, and see you with other episodes. Bye bye.